Alright, it's time to get the show on the road.
I'm gonna try, but I am covered in mosquito and fly bites.
Well,
And so, really all I can think about is how itchy I am.
that sounds like a personal problem, because I also am covered in mosquito bites.
Bugs suck.
And bite.
They do. They suck and they bite.
Especially if they're mosquitoes.
I know. Ugh. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna do a podcast.
Yeah, we're recording a little early because we are leaving on vacation tomorrow, and we won't be here to record when we normally record.
And we didn't want to try to record in the hotel room.
And we didn't want to leave you a week without an episode.
I know you would be devastated.
So devastated.
And the story that I wanted to do needed way too much research, so luckily Sarah had some old show notes that we didn't, or, research notes that we haven't used.
We actually have used them.
We have?
But then we lost the episode, and
Oh.
then, so, there you go. So, this is something that I had written, we've already recorded, but it was like months ago, and so you probably remember some of it, but probably not all of it, but that's okay, because I'm just complete transparency. I didn't even really read all of these notes again, so we're going to kind of go on a journey together.
Groovy.
But what I did do, just to make sure that I was remembering the case, was I went back and I watched 48 Hours episode. I listened to the episode on the Dateline podcast. I listened to... I watched an A&E episode of this on killer cases, and I listened to a podcast called DNA ID, and another one that I can't remember. It was something about a husband and a wife. But, let's see. I don't want to do them dirty, so let me see what it was. Murder with My Husband. Alright, so I'm just gonna throw my phone at Feran. Totally okay.
Calm down there, ma'am.
Okay, so anyway, this is the case of the murder of Michelle Martinko.
Okay.
Alright. So, Michelle was born on October 6th, 1961 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Albert and Janet Martinko. She's the youngest of two daughters. Her sister Janelle is 12 years older, and Michelle, on basically everything, is referred to as Albert and Janet's miracle baby, because she had her when she was 44 and had suffered 5 miscarriages before she was born. Michelle was diagnosed with scoliosis when she was 12, and she had to wear a brace that went from her neck to her hips for 2 years, and that made her pretty self-conscious. And
I can imagine.
She, tried her best not to be noticed because, kids are mean.
Kids are terrible. They're terrible people.
Yep. But then whenever she went to high school and she had her brace off, then she kind of started embracing her fashion, and she had really long blonde hair, and so she was doing the full Farrah Fawcett, and everybody remembered her as being very beautiful and very, very kind. Some of her friends talked about how because she knew what it was like to be on the opposite side,
right,
trying to make yourself invisible or just being invisible to other people or whatever, that she went out of her way to be nice to other people.
And, it either goes both ways. You either become very kind because you know what it's like, or you kind of hold a grudge against the world.
Right. Well, she seemed to be the nice one. She was on the twirling squad. She sang in the choir, and she performed in theater productions. She, all at Cedar Rapids Kennedy High School. She was an above average student. She was a senior in high school when she was murdered, but she had been planning to attend Iowa State University that fall to study interior design. Now, Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is not a reliable source, said that she didn't have many close friends because of jealousy over her looks and stylish clothes. Which I guess, high school is high school.
Yeah.
But she did have some pretty close friends from everything else that I, like on the 48 Hours in Dateline, there were lots of people that talked kindly about her and said that they were friends with her. 48 Hours and I think on Dateline both mentioned that she attracted the attention of men, but she was like blissfully unaware of it. And when she was 15, she started dating a boy named Andy Seidel, who was 16, and they met when Michelle and her friend were roller skating. They dated for 2 years before breaking up because Michelle said that she didn't want to be in a serious relationship, and Andy didn't seem to take the breakup very well. He would, insist on knowing where she was. He would drive by her house all the time. He was always asking her friends who she was dating and just kind of being a little obsessive about it.
Yeah.
But then he went off to college because he was a year older than her, and she's a senior now. On December 19th, 1979, Michelle had attended a banquet for the Kennedy Concert Choir at the Sheridan Inn in Cedar Rapids. And again, she was a senior in high school. After the banquet, Michelle wanted to go to the Westdale Mall, which had just opened in October, so it was brand new. And it was Christmas shopping time. It was just a week before Christmas, so brand new mall. It was super busy. She asked her friend Jane to go, but Jane said that she needed to study and didn't want to go with her. So she decided to go by herself. And one of the reasons that she wanted to go to the mall was she was going to pay off a winter coat that her mom had put on layaway for her. And so she had $180 in her purse to pay for this coat. And she also was just doing mall stuff. She was hanging out with her friends. She was walking around shops. Now, Wikipedia, and I would just like to say happy July 20th to everyone who observes the holiday.
We're still shooting off fireworks.
Still shooting off fireworks out there. Okay, sorry, that distracted me. So Wikipedia and the DNA ID episode that I listened to both mentioned her having a part-time job at the mall. But on the A&E Killer Cases episode, her sister said that this was the first time that she was visiting the mall. So, I don't know. I'm inclined to believe her sister, who's lived with this for the last, 50 years. So, she also apparently bumped into her jealous ex-boyfriend, Andy, who was home for winter break. But he said that they were friendly, that he was there to buy her a Christmas present, and that he even told her he was there to buy her a Christmas present, and told her, don't follow me around because I need to find something to buy you, and that they kind of laughed and made plans to talk later.
Yeah.
The mall was closing at 10. Remember those days?
Yeah, when malls didn't close at 6 p.m.
Yeah. And she was last seen outside of a jewelry store at about 9. But I think, if I'm understanding what I learned on the Dateline episode, she ran into a boy named Kurt, who she went to school with, and sometime between 9 and 10, and he was on break from his job in a men's clothing store. And he said that they walked around and talked, and then he walked her to the exit, and then he went back to work. At about 2 a.m., when her parents realized that she wasn't home yet, and she had school the next day, and, she was a good kid, so they were worried, and so they called the police to report her missing, and the police were like, yeah, but she's a kid. You know how cops are. Yeah. And they're like, but she has a test tomorrow. Right. She should be at home. This is not like her. And they were like, whatever, she's a kid. So they called
And I just want to point out that I hate that attitude from cops.
I do too.
Especially when it's your own child and you know the personality of your child and you know that this is unlike them.
And even if the parents are overreacting and she is just off being a wild teenager or whatever, wouldn't it be better to, like, find her just off, like, drinking at the river or something than lose time
that they could have been looking for her if something...
Yeah, if she was in danger
Yeah.
or something. It's ridiculous. And especially, parents, they know their kids better than the cops do. It's stupid. So...
It's definitely an attitude that really needs to change and hasn't seemed to change much over time.
No.
And definitely is unfortunate that this still happens.
Yeah. Well, so her parents called Jane, remember the friend that had told her she couldn't go to the mall with her, and so she's asleep because it's like 2:00 in the morning, and she said on the Dateline episode that her parents came and woke her up and said, the Martinkos are on the phone, and she was like, I haven't seen her since we left the choir banquet. You know, she said she was going to go to the mall. And so then they, Bear just texted me and asked me what the noise was from earlier. I don't know why he doesn't recognize fireworks sounds, because
she does.
He loves explosives.
Mm-hmm. The dog definitely does.
Yeah.
She's currently having a panic attack over one firework.
Yep. So anyway, so I guess even at like 3:00, they called Andy Seidel's house and they were like, have you seen her? And he said no. And on the Dateline episode, they said that he and his mom got in the car and started looking for her. They called the police back and they were like, look, we've called people, we can't find her, she's still not home, you know, this is where she was last that everybody knows of, can you please go find her? And so they finally did, and at 4 a.m. the police found the Martinko family's tan and green 1972 Buick Electra parked in the northeast corner of the mall's parking lot near the JCPenney. Now, it was kind of far out in the parking lot, but again, this was a brand new mall, and it was Christmas shopping season, and so she probably just had to park far away because, you know, she got there so late.
It was crowded.
And it was crowded. And so the police officer that was driving around and saw the car, he was like, okay, well, this is a car that matches the description. And he drove up and he said that he, like, opened the back seat first, I guess, and he saw a woman slumped over in the seat, and he thought, oh, like, it's just somebody drunk and passed out, because I guess at the time they didn't tell them what they were looking for. They were just looking for the car.
Oh, okay.
But then he realized that it was a teenage girl who was very dead in the car.
Dead.
And so she was, like I said, inside the car. She had been stabbed 29 times in her face, neck, and chest.
That seems like a bit of overkill.
Very much so. And the cops were like, oh, this seems very personal as well, because it's in such close quarters. You know, it was like to her face, you know, and that always...
Well, plus a lot of the time, overkill is not just a random murder.
Right.
It usually, there's some emotion tied to it.
Exactly. So, due to the lack of blood outside of the car, it was determined that she had been killed after she was already inside the car, and the medical examiner put her death between 8 and 10 p.m., which basically means that as soon as she walked out of the mall and got in her car, she was killed.
Yeah.
And, like I said, her car was parked far away from the mall. It was well after dark. It's December in Iowa, so it's pretty dark outside. So it's believed that she walked out to her car. What's the matter?
I don't know. I keep feeling like it sounds like it's raining. Like, I know it's not, but...
It's probably just the water on my air conditioner.
Probably.
Okay, so... I lost my necklace. Oh yeah, it's just that water in my air conditioner. Okay, so anyway, the Police officers believe that she walked out to her car, got inside, and maybe turned on the car to warm it up for a minute before leaving, and that the killer opened the door, either forced her over into the passenger seat, or she slid over to, like, try to get away from him, and that's when she was attacked. She had so many defensive wounds on her hands, showing that she fought back really hard against whoever killed her. There were no fingerprints found, and so the police believe that the killer wore gloves. Yeah. And also, based on the impressions in some dirt on the outside of the car, like on the push button on the handle, it looked like those yellow dishwashing gloves that everybody has in their house. And so this gave credence to the idea that the killer went there with the intention of killing someone. And, you know, because it was so personal, everybody believed that it was somebody who went there with the intention of killing Michelle. All right, so she still had cash in her purse, like that $180 was still there. And she had purchases in the bags, in bags in the back seat, and so they didn't believe that the motive was robbery. And they thought that possibly it could have been, like, motivated by, like, sexual assault, but she wasn't sexually assaulted.
Okay.
But, like, that could have been, like, the intention, but then she fought back so hard, and then, like, you know, it just didn't go the way that it was supposed to, maybe. Yeah. And because she had run into her jealous ex-boyfriend, Andy, of course, they brought him in for questioning, and her family from the get-go thought that it was him because he had been so obsessive, like, after they had broken up.
Right.
And so they, his mom did give him an alibi saying that he was home, but they also were like, but alibis from your mom aren't always...
Right. There are plenty of moms who will say anything to keep their kid out of trouble.
Exactly.
Even if their kid totally did something.
Right. They also questioned basically any men or boys who had anything to do with Michelle at the time. They pulled that kid Kurt that she had talked to at the mall out of class, and asked him questions because he was the last person to see her, so he also was a suspect. She had another boyfriend that lived, like, he was away at college, like, 100 miles away, but even he was a suspect. Yeah. And then, like, Andy really, though, was, like, the only real suspect. And then he made himself seem even more suspicious at Michelle's funeral. He, like, was, like, basically, like, inside her casket, like, just making a spectacle. Like, he, like, had his arms around her and was, like, I don't know, bawling and squalling, and he kept asking, like, did she love me when she died? I have to know who she loved when she died. Did she love me or did she love Mike? And,
like, okay, calm down, guy.
Yeah, and so everybody was just kind of like, this guy's super weird. Also, I was like, why was the casket open if she had been stabbed in the face?
Right? I mean, I guess they can do things, but...
Yeah. But, I don't know. That just... Ugh. I don't like open caskets anyway.
No.
But that's...
They make me uncomfortable.
A personal preference, I guess. I don't know. So even though most people thought that Andy was the killer, they didn't have any evidence that he did it. And he soon left to join the Navy. The blood, no, there was blood, like, basically all over the car because she'd been stabbed 29 times.
A bajillion times.
But they did take some scrapings of blood off of the gear shifter and her dress that, of course, it's 1979, so there's no DNA technology. But they typed it, and it was determined to belong to a man.
Okay.
But, like, other than that, they didn't have any other leads. Like, there was no... They asked questions of everybody who they thought, and they all thought, like, this is somebody... It has to be somebody that she knows. And, I mean, it went cold. They didn't have anybody. So police ruled out almost everybody that Michelle knew, and now they were considering that she had been killed by a stranger, but friends said that they hadn't noticed anyone paying any special attention to her at the mall.
Mm-hmm.
In June of 1980, police released a sketch of the killer based on hypnosis-induced description by 2 witnesses.
Uh-huh.
And it was a white man in his late teens or early 20s, about 6 feet, 165 to 175 pounds, with brown hair, or curly brown hair and brown eyes. And they offered a $10,000 reward. They even brought psychics in. But, I mean, that didn't bring about anything either.
Yeah.
And Michelle's parents died in 1995 and 1998, never knowing.
Yeah.
And
which is unfortunate.
And they went to their graves, like, fully believing that Andy had killed her.
Mm-hmm.
In 2006, which was 27 years after Michelle was killed, Detective Doug Larison, who had actually gone to high school with Michelle, was reviewing her case file and found the blood evidence. And I just want to say that, you know, we covered Phoebe Handstruck a couple of weeks ago, where the police just didn't care at all about evidence or anything. They didn't collect evidence. They didn't do anything. These people, who did not even have DNA technology, preserved this evidence. Like, they, like, collected all of the evidence that they could, and they preserved it for all of these years, to the point that, like, now we're in 2006 where there is DNA technology, and this guy was like, we have blood evidence.
Yeah.
And so he sent it out for DNA testing.
They, you know, did their job.
Exactly. And it's sad when that seems to be, like, not the norm. when things are done correctly. But anyway, so they sent the blood evidence out for DNA testing, and they received a sequence that reported fewer than 1 in 1 billion people would match the sequence. And so it was basically like a complete genetic sequence of somebody. But they ran it through CODIS, which is like the national DNA database, and there were no hits. So they were like bummed because, like, they thought this was like their golden ticket or whatever. So they also swabbed all of the suspects that they originally had. So they called Andy up and they were like, hey, can you provide us with DNA? And I guess he might have been a little hesitant at first, but he was like, you keep saying it's not you. It's not going to match this DNA sequence if it's not you. And so, and then, you know, if it doesn't match, then you're 100% cleared. Yeah. And so he went ahead and he did submit his DNA, and it did not match. And Kurt, I guess, like, refused to submit his DNA. And so the cops were like, oh, well, obviously you're our killer, because he wouldn't give their DNA.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, that's not suspicious or anything.
But I guess his wife was a judge, and she told him not to without a warrant. And so I guess they finally, like, went back and forth between his lawyer and the police, and he finally submitted his DNA for testing, and it was not a match. They even tested her brother-in-law. Yeah. Like, they tested every man that had any connection to her.
Yeah, every known man in her life.
Exactly. And none of the DNA matched the sequence that they found in her car. Then, Doug Larison, the detective that did this, he was, in 2015, maybe even before that, was just like, you know, I've been working on this case so long, and I'm burnt out, and I think you need to assign somebody new to this case that has fresh eyes. Yeah. And so Matt Dinlinger took over, and he was actually the son of one of the original detectives from the case. And so he wanted to solve this, like, for his dad, if
Right.
nothing else. He was like, I want to do something, you know, like, finish this for my dad.
All right, guys, thank you for listening to part 1 of the Twisted and Mysterious podcast. Remember, people are gross and don't get murdered.